This week on Boring Gear Reviews, we have the Cyst Mode from Laowiz. Big thanks to Richard from Laowiz for sending me the Cyst Mode. So Laowiz is a pedal effects company based out of Los Angeles, California, and they are run and founded by Richard McIntosh. So the Cyst Mode is a distortion pedal, and I have to say, it is one of the most intense distortion pedals I've ever heard. There are a lot of really amazing, super gnarly distortion pedals, and then there's a category kind of above that where a pedal is elevated into a space where not only is it like insanely intense, but it has kind of interesting features, more extreme settings, and it still remains very musical and usable and has a very wide range. And the Cyst Mode finds its home in that space. So for controls, we're going to start with the filtering section on the right-hand side. First up, we have distortion, which will obviously control the amount of distortion in the signal. Then we have filter depth, counterclockwise for like a thicker, deeper contour, and then clockwise for like a thinner, brighter sound. Then we have filter EQ, counterclockwise for thick, clockwise for thin. In the middle top toggle switch, we have two clipping modes. We have LED and silicon. The next toggle switch will toggle between the two modes of the pedal. So to the left, we have the filter depth, which this control will work. And then when you turn it to the right, you're going to activate the Cyst Mode. And then you have a four-way rotary knob selecting which kind of mode of the filtering you want. And each one is a very dynamic filtering option. So depending on how hard or soft you play, the way the filter responds will change. When the Cyst Mode is activated, the filter depth control does not work. When the Cyst Mode is not activated, the selector knob for the Cyst Modes doesn't work. So you kind of choose between one or the other. And last up, we have the post-filtering section. So on top, we have high, which will control the amount of high end at the end of the signal. And then we have a low cut or boost, which will control the amount of low end. And finally, the volume control, which will control the overall output of the pedal while it's on. The Cyst Mode for sure has one of the most powerful and deep set of filtering controls I've ever used. For today's demo, I'm using my 2021 Dunable Yeti Custom, and this has Dunable Grizzly pickups. These are custom wound, so they are low output and unpotted. And from there, we'll be running into my UAD Apollo X6 and using the Softube JMP 2203 amp sim. Okay, so for this first setting, we're going to show that it can do clean tones. But because of the nature of the pedal, you're still going to get a ton of grit and character and nuance and a lot of aggression in a clean tone. To do that, we're going to have the distortion at 9 o'clock. We're going to have the filter depth around 4 o'clock and the filter EQ at 11. We're going to be using the silicon clipping, and we're not going to be in Cyst mode, so we're going to be in the filter depth mode. And then we're going to roll the high all the way off. We're going to boost the low to about 2 o'clock, and then the volume just past 3 o'clock. And that is going to be paired with the Chase Bliss Audio Tonal Recall red knob. And here we're just going to be adding some slapback delay. Okay, so this is definitely a, quote, clean tone, but it is really, really aggressive, which I loved. This was like, finding this setting was kind of, I don't know, mind-blowing. It doesn't seem like much, like, oh, it's a clean tone, but it is really clangy, and it manages to be super aggressive and in your face, and it has a lot of weight, even though it is very kind of high-end focused, clangy, and it is a clean tone, but somehow it manages to have a lot of the characteristics and personality of a distorted tone. All right, in this next clip, we're going to have the distortion around 10 o'clock. The depth control won't matter because we're going to be in Cyst mode, and the filter EQ will be at noon. We're going to stay in the silicon clipping, and like I said, we're going to be in the Cyst mode using mode number 2. We'll have the high cut at noon and the low cut around, 8 o'clock, and then our volume will be around 4 or 5. We're going to bring back the tonal recall red knob, and here we're just going to have kind of like a standard analog delay. And then pretty quickly, we're going to turn on the Meris Mercury 7 for like a big plate reverb. So what we get in this setting is a really guttural, huge, the way the Cyst mode filtering is going to work, it's almost like it's trying to like, I don't know if this is the right or the best way to articulate this, but it's almost like it's trying to like vomit up the sound. It's really amazing. Like it's trying so hard to open this gate of the filter. And because of that, it manages to stay in this EQ zone that is very harmonically rich, and then you get all these sub-octave harmonics too. This is one of those pedals that really influences your playing and pushes you into areas you may not have gone otherwise. So we're gonna have this super huge, thick, it almost sounds like there's a low octave going with it the whole time. The really big distorted sound pairs beautifully with the delay and the reverb, and then in the second half of the clip, I'm going to turn off everything except for the Cyst mode, and you'll hear that the way it responds to a little faster playing. It's huge and massive, super fun. Enjoy. All right, for this next setting, we're just going to be using the Cyst mode. So like I said, this has one of the most powerful and deep filtering sections of any pedal I've ever used. So you can hear, okay, so it had like this really kind of aggressive, clangy, clean tone, this massive, lumbering, dynamic filtering section. And now we're going to use one of the gnarliest, most aggressive kind of chainsaw HM2 style sounds I've ever heard. This setting is crazy aggressive, really in your face, really throaty. I loved it. I played on this setting for like a really, really, really long time. And to achieve this, we're going to have the distortion around 230. The filter depth will be at 1. The filter EQ will be at 10. We're going to be in the LED clipping and then in the filter depth mode. So this control for the Cyst Mode selector is not active. We'll have the high control at noon and the low control around 5 o'clock. And then we're going to keep the volume around 2 o'clock. One thing to note, these post controls for high and low are really intense. So you can boost the low so much that it'll, destroy your speakers. So just, one thing to be careful. And then there's a lot of volume in this pedal as well. So just something to look after. But what I really love about how interactive all these controls are is when you boost the low so much, it really destroys and crumbles the signal in a beautiful way. And in this last clip, we're going to be using the Cyst Mode once again. So we're going to start with the distortion almost maxed out. The filter depth won't matter here. And then the filter EQ will be at 1 o'clock. We're going to be in the LED clipping still with the Cyst Mode activated. And here we're going to be on the last setting, number 4. We're going to max out both the high and low settings and have the volume at 2 o'clock. We're still going to pair that with the Tonal Recall and the Mercury 7. All right, so what we're getting here is a much faster response from the Cyst Mode and that filtering. So you'll hear like every hard pick attack, it's almost like there's an expression pedal opening that kind of filtering gate. And this adds a ton of movement all over the place. So every pick attack, every time I hit the strings, you'll hear this big kind of, you hear this like, wah. I shouldn't even play guitar. I should just do that. That's how I'm demoing everything from now on, just my rad voice. But that's what's going on. It makes this huge sound, and like I said, this will respond much, much faster. The way this tone kind of like envelops you was really, really cool. I found something interesting here that it felt like, even though it's a very aggressive tone, it also felt kind of very warm, I guess. That's not the right word, because this is a very aggressive, there's a lot of harshness in this tone, but there's something about it. I guess it's the way the filtering in the Cyst Mode is working, but it manages to stay kind of contained in this little bubble that it feels a little more, I don't know, approachable or warm or something. I loved it. Enjoy. that's a wrap for the Laowiz Cyst Mode. Obvious, this thing is outstanding. This is a bold pedal. It's really saying a lot and doing a lot, and it's challenging you as the player, as the user, to really dig in to the controls. The obvious ones are going to be, the volume, the distortion, and the clipping. Like, that's very obvious. Those controls you'll see all over the place, and they work basically how you'd expect. It's these 4 filtering controls, and whether or not you're using the Cyst Mode. So these 5 controls that are really the star of this pedal. They allow you to do way more than you would expect from a distortion pedal. Like, I'm still kind of trying to wrap my head around it, and I'm really looking forward to spending a lot more time diving deeper and figuring out more ways to use these controls. But it's outstanding. This is something really good, really interesting, distortion from, clangy to huge and massive and weird. This is like really something you should consider. It feels great in your hand too. It's, great knob selection. It's got this really awesome kind of rough powder coating in the black, and then a beautiful white and yellow printing on top. Top jacks, top DC, home run. If you like what you saw, please consider hitting that subscribe and like and share. It means a lot. I do appreciate it. As always, links for everything will be in the description below, and I'll see you next week for another video. Peace.